Hi, my name is Lee, and today we're going through my top 5 books I want to read in 2023. So every year I make this list of 5 books I think I should really read this year, and I don't read them because I just don't. I actually did read a few last year. I did read The Grand Sophie by Georgette Heyer. I really enjoyed it. There's some things in it that I feel like maybe you should be careful about, so you should look it up before you read it in case you're worried about trigger warnings and all that, because there are some, but I really enjoyed it. And then I did read The Vicomte de Bragelonne by Alexandre Dumas, which I also enjoyed, though less so than other Alexandre Dumas books that I've read. Let's talk about what this year's things are instead, because I didn't not read other books from this TBR, but I just don't really want to talk about them. I don't even remember what they are off the top of my head, really. Probably like nonfiction and like books that I actually would enjoy, but I didn't read them anyway. This year, let's start with some honorable mentions, as I always do. Firstly, I was going to read My Five Tigers by Lord Alexander, but then I went and read it, and I enjoyed it, but not as much as other Lord Alexanders. Maybe I'm getting into a slump. I did read it, so I can't include it on my to-be-read list for the year now. Other honorable mentions is that I would maybe like to get around to Lady Susan and or the Watsons. I've already read Sanditon and every other Jane Austen like proper novel. This is the last few ones that I have are these. So perhaps one of these this year. I also might want to get around to Emily of Deep Valley by Hart Lovelace. I say probably. I am most likely going to get around to this book this year. This is the last of the Deep Valley books that I have left. It's the last one. I'm kind of bummed about it, but I've heard that it's really good. Some people say this is the best of the Deep Valley books, which is part of why I've been saving it for last. We're into the top 5. We got a list. Now this year, to try and hedge my bets a little bit in my reading year, I'm trying to read fun, enjoyable books. Maybe not dark books. Maybe not awful books. Maybe not sad, depressing books. I immediately have to talk about The Picture of Dorian Gray. My friends say this is one of the best books of all time. And I'm like, I believe you. I want to believe it, you at least. So I was thinking, let's read that this year. And I mean, really the only reason I haven't read The Picture of Dorian Gray yet is because my edition is in columns, and I don't like columns in my literature. I have a couple other books that have columns, and I just don't like them. And I mean, this could be dark and kind of depressing and awful, but my friends say it is one of the best books ever. So I'm hoping that, evens it out. To continue with my maybe dark, but hopefully not, I don't want dark and depressing books this year list. The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins. This is one of the first detective stories. I should probably mention that I'm kind of on a mystery kick right now, so this kind of made the list just because I'm like, ooh, a mystery book. I love mysteries right now. I don't know why I'm on a kick. I feel like my kick is gonna crash right before I'm about to start this book, and then I'm gonna hate it. But it's also one of those classics that I've owned for so long, and I just keep thinking, oh, I should read that classic because it's a classic. And I mean, I don't just buy classics just because they're classic. I usually have had people or friends or reviews tell me that they're really good classics, which is why I own them. But I haven't read it yet. And maybe I'll hate it. But if I hate it, that means I have more room to buy books. So it's always a good time. Then I have Fablehaven by Brandon Mull, which I got at a library book sale. And I got it kind of for 2 reasons. Firstly, because one of my friends said that this was an excellent fantasy series, and how could I have not read it already? And you should have read it already, Lee. But not only does my friend recommend it, but the library system itself has recommended this book based on how beat up it is. It's a fact. Now, number 4 is kind of weird because originally it was going to be My Five Tigers, but I've already read My Five Tigers. So instead, I'm kind of going to leave this up to me. With a caveat, with kind of a rule is I, in the last few years, have bought a lot of books that are retellings or adaptations of Robin Hood. Like a lot. I have the one by Paul Creswick, which I think is above me, and I'm not going to stand up. The Lady of the Forest by Jennifer Robertson. Or I have this one by Henry Gilbert. Yes! I just pulled that name out of the recesses of my memory, and I did not think it was correct. Then I have The Scarlet Forest by A.E. Chandler. I started the Outlaws of Sherwood at one point. I got like halfway through it, and then I was like, I am bored. I gotta stop for a little while at least. And I might like start this again, but if I'm still bored, I might DNF it and like send it off into the wild blue yonder. This one by Charles Vivian. And then I have The Arrow of Sherwood by Lauren Johnson, which on Goodreads says it's one of the best retellings of Robin Hood ever. And then I have The Prince of Thieves by Alexander Dumas, who I love, which is why I had to get it. I have an absurd amount of Robin Hood books that I haven't read, and I'm like, this is the year. It has to stop. It has to break. We have to do something about it. Now, number 5, I feel like I should have ended with the Robin Hood, but we're not going to do that. We have The Art of Heraldry by Peter Gwynne-Jones. This is one of those like coffee table history book kind of things where it is a lot of pictures. But I am fascinated by graphic designy things and history, and so this seemed like a really good combo of both of those interests, and I've also owned this book for probably 10 years, and I haven't read it. So we're gonna make that a different thing this year, maybe, hopefully. Also, the other thing is I have started some nonfiction books, and I just am not making my way through them very quickly at all. So I thought, let's add a nonfiction book again this year, but make it thin. With mostly pictures, and maybe I'll get my way through it. Those are the top 5 books I want to read in 2023. What books do you want to read this year? And yeah, this is really late, but I always post this video in March for some reason. I think for me, I really like posting it in March and thinking about it in March and like later in the year, because it's like January, there's all these like, here's all these resolutions and here's all these things, and then like February hits and you're like, none of that's gonna work. And so I feel like March resolutions are way more reliably accurate to what the year's gonna look like. I hope you're having a lovely afternoon and are reading good books. I gotta go. Have a good day. Bye. Then I also have the Airword of but then I have the Airword I can't actually lift this stack right now because I've hurt my back, so we're not gonna try.